Coming to you from Boston's Tennis and Racket Club in beautiful Boston, Massachusetts. I'm here this morning, doing some technical difficulties. Gentlemen, I'm here this morning joined by one of the pro participants, Mike Gooding. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Ken. How are you?
Very good, and I'm joined by my regular partner in crime, Mark Beaumont. How are you, Mark?
I'm fantastic this morning and very excited about the tennis today. What a week of tennis that we have seen so far this week.
Yeah, why don't you recap for us?
So the biggest news of yesterday obviously was seeing Tim Chisholm go down. He looked injured. It's been a week of injury. You were in the commentary box last night. What was the atmosphere like here in the club, and what were your thoughts as Tim went down?
Well, from where we sit for the commentary in the Hamlin room here, right behind the Dayton, we couldn't initially tell that Tim went down. He had served a railroad, and I guess he had pulled some sort of a muscle in his back, and he just went down like a sack of potatoes, unfortunately.
I was watching on the stream, of course. Now he didn't fall and bang anything, which is good. It looked like he pulled something, and I heard it was his back. He sat on the floor for a little while. He took a little while to compose himself. He then tried to play again because of the competitor that he is. But then at the other end, he seemed to go down again, and that was the end of the game.
Okay, and over to our marker, Jamie Stout.
Okay, so we're off today.
The final day of the 2021 USCTA National League, hosted by the Boston Tennis and Racket Club. This match is between Chicago and Philadelphia, second string singles. On the receiving side of the court, James Asher. On the serving side, we have Connor Medlow. Match is to be the best of 3 sets, 1 juice and then 40 all, except at 5 all. First set, love all.
What is it at 5?
Do set.
Okay, good luck, players. So last night, Tim went down with the back injury.
15 love.
When a couple seconds later, when Freddie, Adam, and I realized what had happened, it was like a pall was cast across the whole area, because of course we have no idea what happened, and the way that he went down, it wasn't really obvious what happened. He's pretty quiet guy, but then we sort of felt a little better when we realized it was quote unquote just his back and not having a stroke or something. So he walked it off for just a minute or so, and then served a bobble, which James Stout unfortunately hit into the side of the net, and and he joked, I don't need a railroad, I could just serve that all day. And because it was the railroad that obviously injured him. So then they switched sides. He went over to the hazard side. Returned a ball, and again just absolutely crumbled to the ground. And from the commentary box, I was encouraging Tim, please don't continue. You're just gonna hurt yourself in some permanent way. And by that point, he had actually called the match. So,
well, let's just talk about today's game then. So, what you're currently watching is Chicago versus Philadelphia. Scheduled for this afternoon is New England against Tuxedo, in which Tim is scheduled to play. Now, I've just spoken to Tony Hollins, and Tony says that Tim is planning on playing. which I'm not sure if it's a good idea or not. But we will wait till we get to the afternoon to see whether Tim does indeed play, and what happens there. In the commentary box, we don't know at this point in time whether that match is going to go ahead or not. But the word from the locker room is Tim is planning on playing this afternoon.
Well, we'll have to find out from him what he did to recover to play in the match. I mean, I suppose none of us should be surprised that he's going to attempt playing. He is a soldier after all, but we shall see. What are the current standings? Do you happen to have that, Mark?
Okay, so let's take a look at this now. So you're currently watching Philadelphia versus Chicago. Now, by maths, or is it math as you would say?
It's math here.
It's math.
In Boston.
Okay, it's math. By math, neither Philadelphia or Chicago can win. So Philadelphia's currently on 9 points. Chicago's on 6 points. It would be the match this afternoon that would decide the league. New England at 17 points currently, and Tuxedo at 12. So we will see. We want that match to go ahead, but obviously we don't want Tim to get injured, and that's obviously going to be the main consideration.
That's right. Who knows? Maybe Josh Dodgson will sub in yet again for someone.
He's played for every team, hasn't he? He's played for 2 teams.
That's right. Maybe Leon will slot up to number 1 and take on the big ginger, Hamden Revere.
And obviously New York are currently on 12 points. So that's where we're at the moment. So you're currently watching James Asher versus Connor Medlow, and it'd be good to get maybe Mike Gooding's thoughts on this match and what we should be watching for.
Well, this is a hard match for James Asher to win. He's less experienced than Connor. Connor started at Seacourt at a very young age. Asher's come to the game via squash in Philadelphia. Plenty of talent and a great athlete, but not the same experience level, and there's quite a difference in handicap. I'm sure Asher's just trying to make the most of this match, work on that experience, and see if he can pull off a win.
Just to see what he can do. So
yeah.
Asher's it came from squash.
Yes.
Asher might have an issue with you, Mike. He's ahead 1-love right now.
Well,
too early to call.
Yeah.
You know how this game goes. Several of the pros who've sat in the commentary box this week have mentioned how incredibly streaky this game can be. Is that your experience?
It's a very streaky game because the chases bring you back into conscious thought. So other sports you repeat as necessary your winning strokes, but a winning stroke on one chase is not a winning stroke on another chase. Plus there's more permutations of choices, so choices become more pivotal in a win. And again, that leads you into more conscious thought. So people can go in and out of playing well quite easily for under-analyzing or over-analyzing situations. So in that sense, I think that's why it becomes very streaky.
That's a great explanation. I've not heard that one before. I've learned a lot sitting in this commentary box these past 5 days. It's been quite fruitful. I hope the viewers have enjoyed it as well. Speaking of which, our live commentary is open. I encourage those watching to say hello. I know we've had good viewership so far. If you would like Mike to address anything while he's here, that would be fantastic. I know Mike's been around the game a good while. One thing I'd like to talk to him about, and for selfish reasons, whenever anybody asks me, well, what about this Mike Gooding guy? I say, well, he played badminton for Scotland, and that is, virtually the only thing that I know about you, Mike. So what was your introduction to this game?
the first time I ever saw it, I was actually just looking for some badminton string to fix my racket. And I heard there's this guy, Chris Ronaldson.
Just this guy.
Yeah. And I trotted along to try and buy some badminton string from him. And he didn't have any, but I actually saw Wayne Davies play Howard Angus.
Oh, Lord. You just happened into that?
I have just walked into that.
Oh, my gosh.
And unfortunately, as a 14-year-old, I wasn't impressed. Mostly because I didn't understand what was going on.
Of course.
And compared to badminton, there seemed rather little action. So a couple of years later, a friend of mine suggested we go and have a half-hour lesson with the following pro, which was Walter Gregg in Troon, Scotland. And from that day, I continued to play.
Wow.
Later that year, I became the club handicap champion, and my opponent in the final was the owner of the court's son.
Oh, Lord.
And he had a spectator who was a chap called David Warburg, who was probably one of the greatest amateur players ever. And he saw me play and said, well, would you like to be a pro? I could get you into Hampton Court to train with Chris Walson. And at that stage I was failing French, and I was like, well, this is probably a better option.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So now, we're tied up at 1-1 now. So tell us just at least a little bit about badminton and how you got into that sport. I have to say, every once in a while, I'll hit YouTube and look for some doubles badminton just to, blow my mind. And of course, some of the matches and points that they put on YouTube are just, absolutely beyond belief. I mean, talk about action. Holy cow, it's just so fast, and the reaction time, incredible. How did you find that sport and train for it?
Well, so many people wouldn't know that badminton is the biggest participation sport in Scotland.
Interesting. No, I did not know that.
Because you've got to imagine facilities for sports.
Right.
If they're not tailor-made, you have to have them by accident.
Right.
And every village and town has a church, and every church has a church hall,
Right.
which is usually a sprung wooden floor.
Interesting.
So it's the easiest sport just to throw up a net, bit of tape, and you've got a sports
Makes
place
all,
in a town. Similar to a little bit like if you go to Basque Country, every village has a large wall in the center of it,
right.
and that would be your handball wall and the start of a sport for the whole village to play.
Right.
So it's very known about to play badminton. It's not something that, like in North America, no one really knows about it. But if you go to Canada, it's really popular.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, as a Commonwealth country. So that's how it was. It was easy to find. Put it that way.
Interesting. Now, yeah, in the United States anyway, badminton is. I think most people, if they know about it, they know about it from playing it really badly in their backyard from a $40 set that you buy at the toy store. You don't even buy it at a sporting goods shop. I tell you, I have one quick badminton story. In phys ed in high school, we had a unit on lacrosse, and we had a real sadistic gym teacher who happened to be the football coach as well, and he decided that he was going to put me in goal because I was the biggest guy. Now we're playing with basically all of the regular equipment, except that because it was gym, we had no pads at all. Well, after one day of having these balls hurled at me in the goal, I told him, "Look, I am not playing lacrosse like this. You know, this isn't even a sport. This is just torture." So I said, "I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go over and play badminton with the girls," because they were doing a unit in badminton. And for the next 6 or 8 weeks, I had the best time of my life in gym. Not only did I get to hang out with all these beautiful girls, but I also found out that I actually like badminton a lot. And if you could just, keep your eye on that shuttlecock, you could have a really great time. So I've always loved the sport for that reason. I think it probably saved me at that point.
Lovely forehand cut there from James Asher. Sorry, just to
tied up at
come
2
back to
all,
this.
eh?
He's just tied it up at 2-all. Trying to keep my eye on the tennis as we're talking. So what's he doing here, Mike? You think he's trying to keep his floor game tight, trying to not let Connor play the game that he wants to play?
I mean, usually I think of Asher as a hard hitter.
Okay.
He's a strong guy, big levers. He's obviously gets to practice with John a lot, so that his game's probably coming on faster than his results would suggest in his handicap, because he's getting many hours that don't generate results. So, he could be better than what he is on paper. And I'm sure John has given him the skinny on how to play Connor. So I'm sure he's trying to utilize that information.
Now, of course, Connor's a left-hander, and we've been talking quite a bit this week about how the left-handed players have featured quite heavily in the tournament. Obviously, we've got James Stout, we've got Camden Riviere, Steve Vergona, in terms of the big hitters. But Connor is a left-hander as well. Now, I'm guessing James doesn't have as much practice playing against left-handers. Do you think he will change his game at all for Connor, or will he go through his normal motions?
He should change his game, but whether he's got enough experience playing left-handers to be able to do that well enough. Generally speaking, you want them not to turn. And if they do hit a good return, it's quite beneficial to just slip the ball back onto the winning gallery.
Mm-hmm.
Why go down the line with a weak shot? You might as well reset the point and go back to the backhand, and then you're on a bit more of a level terms. If you started with a floor shot backhand from a lefty from that wing every time, you're looking good this end.
Right.
So unless you can do something worthwhile down the line, it's good to go cross-court. And Rob Fay does that very well against Camden. You reset the point if it's not looking good, and take it from there.
I'm just seeing Connor being quite aggressive with the corners,
Connor's pulled ahead.
and he's just pulling ahead here. I've seen a couple of shots spray a little bit wildly from James, like that one onto the penthouse roof, which gives Connor a fairly easy attack of the tambour in return. So James has just got to watch out for that. Maybe keep the ball down off the penthouse roof.
One thing I noticed from these C-Court boys, Mike, I don't know if you've noticed this, but they all seem to play with a little extra flourish. I've seen Tony not as much as he used to, but definitely this week Connor, Josh. There's always a little extra style to the follow through. I really wonder if that is down to who taught them. I'm a little uncertain who it was at C-Court who taught them.
Well, the main pro at C-Court was Peter Dawes for a long time.
Okay.
And he coached the first group, and then that group would have been viewed and followed by the next.
Okay.
So there's
Okay.
a sort of generational type of swing, would you say? And they also the difference with Seacourt and say Preston Hall, there was a lot more access to court time for juniors.
That's it.
So the courts that have plenty of court time available for juniors spawn a lot of good players.
Right.
Preston, AJ, Playfair, Lewis Gordon. There's a lot coming out of Preston. Ricardo Smith, and same with Seacourt. The trouble with a very well-used court is there's not so much time for juniors. So that's always a little bit of a problem.
Also, I think especially in the United States, with most of the clubs, most of the courts being at these former or current gentlemen's clubs, the idea of having kids around is not everybody's cup of tea. Many of the men are coming here to get away from their kids, and don't necessarily want them on court.
Well, access is key in any sport. In England, access to lawn tennis was expensive.
Right.
It's getting less so now. And you would say access to squash in America was very exclusive at one stage, and that's changing. So you're going to get a different look at of who plays, and also more access is just going to produce better players.
Yes, I really hope at some point in the United States we can build a fully public court tennis court. I think it would be very interesting to see what comes out of that. I know there were some words about that a few years ago, but that seems to have fallen by the wayside. Now, you mentioned Ricardo Smith. Now, that's a name that I haven't heard for a little bit. I guess I had heard that he left the game or decided to stop touring. Do you have any intelligence on that?
I believe he's the head padel pro at Preston.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he set his sights on being world champion, and he had a lot of coaching from Chris and got very good. He had a bit of a back injury and maybe thought he wasn't going to make that goal, so he made a transition early.
Right.
And I think he loves padel, so he opted out. I wouldn't be surprised if he dips back in at some stage. Because he's got all the skills. He's still playing a sport that has some similarities, so he could easily come back into the game and be good.
Well, he made a very good run at the World Doubles with Rob Fahey in 2017 at Preston, if I recall. They were up 4-love after the first day, and Cam and Tim made a miraculous comeback. I have to say, having had Cam here at the TNR and knowing him personally, watching him play a lot, I hope I could be forgiven for thinking like, oh yeah, of course, Cam and Tim, they came back, they won 5 sets. That's crazy. That is an absolutely incredible achievement against Rob Fahey and Ricardo Smith. I mean, that was ridiculous. I don't think anybody could have guessed that. Mike says maybe not.
More of the aberration was that Rob and Ricardo got 4-love up.
Well, that's true enough.
Right. And Tim was somewhat injured on the first day and managed to fix that. And I think, and they sorted out what roles they were going to do. So I mean, it's still remarkable to win 5 sets in a row.
Indeed.
But and also Preston, the more idiosyncrasies a court has, the more home court advantage there is.
Yes.
Right.
So if you put all those factors in, of course Camden and Tim are going to do much better on the second day.
Correct.
So you've got a combination of sorting out Tim's injury a bit, sorting out how they're going to play with Tim's injury, and then getting used to the court.
Right.
I think the more remarkable comeback was Tim Chisholm coming back at Hampton Court and leveling the match with Rob Fay 6-all after I think being three sets down on the final day. And Rob just needing one set, and Tim crawling back all the way back to 6-all. There were no extenuating circumstances there. That was just pure
Tennis talent.
and freedom from being at the precipice of a loss. Tim just played his shots with no fear, and was too good for Rob, and maybe a little fear was brought back into the final set that made the difference, because they're both
Right.
at the finish line. But that was probably 3 sets of the best tennis that's been played.
I'm so sad that I found this game just a few years too late to have seen that, and I don't believe there's any good recording of that.
Yeah, for those of us that played in the 90s, it's gone.
Yeah.
There's no record of
Right.
your wins.
Right. It seemed
And the piece of paper doesn't do it justice.
no.
Just back into this game for a second. We're playing a door chase at advantage for James Asher that Connor Medlow just won. I just noticed he's just had a couple of chats with the marker now. There was a fault called for the first service last time that was a railroad that just clipped the penthouse. The marker called it as an edge, and Connor Medlow was not happy with that. He just had a little word there.
Connor's happy he just took that set though.
Well, he might calm down a little bit now.
I do notice it's interesting as you learn this game as an amateur. Most people will tell you don't question the marker. You're really not going to gain anything from it. And I've played some doubles tournaments with friends and tennis acquaintances, and they get a little huffy about it, and I say just forget it. Move on to the next point. There's so many points in this game, especially as an amateur. Just don't get yourself all riled up. There's just no advantage to it. Now, this is from an amateur, and only my point of view. What's your sense of this, Mike, from both sides? I'm sure as a marker, you think, I'll call it as I see it. Don't question me.
Right.
Is that the way that you're thinking of it? Or are you trying to maintain authority out there?
Yeah, of course. You're trying to maintain a grip of the match. I mean, questioning a marker could go 2 ways.
Okay.
One, the marker could be somewhat intimidated and feel, if there's a 50-50 ball, they may call it up because they called the last one down that was questioned. Mm-hmm. So I've seen that happen. I've also seen markers dig in because someone has questioned them and made it an issue, so then they're less likely to give a 50-50 call the other way.
Yep.
It can go either way, really. I mean, the chief job of a marker is to be invisible.
Right.
Right, is to be impartial enough and have the confidence of the two players that they realize that guy's doing the best he can. There's no vested interests, so they want to move on because they know it's only going to hurt their game to complain.
It
great
is
grill.
interesting with so relatively few touring pros in this game. I've never, and I've attended and watched a lot of these pro tournaments. I've never heard any accusations of favoritism to the marker. I'm sort of amazed by that I have not heard that at least once. It seems the anger is always just about what's perceived as an inaccurate call.
Actually, Conor Medlow just called his own shot down there, so
That's the great thing about this game.
he might be arguing the marker at some points, but he's a wonderful player and a great sportsman as well.
It seems like a number of players will do that. They'll essentially recall the point against themselves.
Just while we're changing ends here, let's just talk about the balls this week, Mike. So Tony Hollins made a fresh set of balls for the game, obviously. I was out there this morning having a look at them. They still seem like they're in pretty good shape. How are you finding them playing?
I mean, they're great. I mean, they're on the larger size, so it's helped the rally stay keeps the ball up, which is more entertaining. But I mean, they're obviously legal, but they're on the larger side. There's a spectrum.
So you'd say this is the beginning of their lives, correct? Because the balls tend to get
Compressed over time.
a
Yeah,
little smaller over time.
A lot of members
Great grill there. Oh, sorry.
Winning gallery.
prefer smaller balls because you put less cut and you get more of a reaction. So the sense is that you're playing better when it could just be the ball making it appear that you're playing better.
Right.
So these balls, you have to cut it if you want it to come down. The gravity and length are not going to help you as much.
Right.
And of course, that's a lovely
Yeah.
shot into the dead-ons.
15 all.
And of course, this court is playing quite bouncy. It's a warm day here in Boston. I think it was about 70 degrees as I drove in this morning, which I checked is about 23 or 24 degrees in Celsius. I didn't know that yesterday. For any British viewers.
We've had a lot of good chat about the unique measurement systems of the United States at this point.
All right. Now,
All I know about Celsius is when it gets to 30, I'm supposed to be uncomfortable, so
30 all.
I'll go along with that.
One thing I've been surprised about is that Asher's been surprisingly reserved. Previous matches I've seen him really hit out.
It's coming back. So they basically wrote off this season.
I wonder what the strategy is there. Maybe he's not so afraid of the power from Conor Medlow. Conor's a pretty measured player himself. For a rackets player, especially.
Right. Also, hitting out is great, but it's a quick way of losing if you're going high or going in the net. So you've got to make that choice. Is it what's your winner loser ratio of hitting hard?
Right.
You know, it's very easy to say, oh, Tim hits hard, wins a lot of points. Or I'll just hit hard and win a lot of points, and it doesn't work that way.
Right.
It's got to be your skill set to keep that off the pentas.
Right.
I mean, that's what's fascinating, because there's lots of different styles of winning. Right? You wouldn't associate Camden as a big hitter, although he's a much harder hitter than he used to be.
Right.
And you wouldn't associate that with Nick Wood. But there's lots of different ways of skinning the cat.
It's true. Gentleman Nick Wood. I've not. I know he's still at Hampton Court, correct? He's
Yep.
been there quite a while. I was lucky enough to see him play a few times before he basically stopped touring. He was plays a fairly classic game.
One game all.
Have you had some good matches against Nick?
A lot of matches with Nick. We're pretty much the same. I'm a little bit older, but similar era. Played a lot of doubles matches with Nick.
Were you ever paired up with him in the doubles or no?
Yeah, I think we won 4 or 5 opens together.
All right.
Chase, more than a yard worth.
I was thinking. I know you were here for the 2007 World Doubles, but I cannot recall your partner. Who were you
Yeah, I
playing
did.
with
I
then?
did play with. I think I did play with Nick.
Okay, great.
And
It's interesting when he was here for that. I was very new to the game, and to a person, everybody said, "Oh, Nick Wood. You're never going to find a nicer person in this game than Nick Wood." And so that just sort of stuck with me whenever I hear his name. I think,
right.
Gentleman Nick.
Beautiful shot there
2015.
from James Asher. I think he is attacking the backhand a little bit more where he can. The challenge is getting a shot that he can actually play to Connor's backhand.
All tied up in the
30
second
all, one
set.
chase pending.
Connor talking to himself a little bit there, just going through his backhand. I think he knows that James is trying to do that as well.
40-30.
I talk to myself quite a bit while I'm playing. It's mostly expletives, just long strings of Tourette-style directions to myself.
What's it? Connor's talking to the marker again. What's he saying?
Connor likes a little bit of banter, so even if he is questioning a call,
Yeah.
it's could be more of just poking fun at the marker rather than a serious. He doesn't expect a result.
Yes.
He just expects to be, teasing the marker.
It's just his way of getting
Yeah,
into the game, is
yeah.
it?
And it might be a way for him to relax.
It's a good
Yeah.
point.
He was smiling then as he said it. So,
Right.
oh, beautiful
Hey now.
backhand.
Shot.
Beautiful backhand into winning
Been
gallery.
working on that all week.
And it was quite a wild shot from James, actually. That wasn't going into dead-ons. That was a beautiful shot. That's what James needs to do more.
See that? I don't understand the physics of that shot. When a ball looks that close to the back wall for the receiver, I just don't get how he can pull it into this forehand corner. To me, it just looks impossible. But they find a way.
So all relative to where you make contact with the ball relative to your body. So
Chase,
and
75.
it's counterintuitive. The further you turn away from the target, the more the ball is in front of you, relatively speaking, so you can pull it cross court. So if you see Tim doing a cut volley cross court,
Right.
he's facing really towards the galleries,
Right.
right? And that's one of the biggest problems for a lot of amateur players is to realize it's the other way around. They're trying to hit to the target rather than let the racket action take the ball to where you want to go. It's not physically possible to always get behind the ball and hit it directly in the direction you want because it's a back wall.
Correct.
I pay Tony Hollins for a lesson every fortnight. He tells me exactly that, and I still don't do it.
You know what? Thank you. There's a repeat lesson is always great business. Yeah, and that's also the benefit of having lessons with multiple pros. You you may find that you come to me and I tell you this, how to do something, and you don't quite get it, and then you'll go to Barney Tanfield, and Barney will just say it in a slightly different way, and it clicks for you. So we generally have the same way of thinking about the game and how it should be played, but just a little turn of phrase or reference from another sport that you share can make the difference to the understanding of how to create that shot.
That's a great point. All right, 3-1 to James Asher. I've got to say, James Asher's he's looking a bit annoyed with himself, but he's actually playing. He's playing quite well. I've noticed several forehands going tight into Conor Medlow's back corner when Conor is at the hazard end.
30-15.
I think that's his game plan.
While I'm here, I just had to give a little shout out to my daughters who have tried court tennis quite a few times. Lara and Tabitha, if you're listening, don't worry, I've been to Trader Joe's. You're getting your salty caramels.
Where's the salty caramels for the commentary team?
We might.
You won't be able to make my life hell.
So tell me,
30-15.
your daughters, how old are they?
13 and 11.
Oh boy,
Fantastic.
Both avid tennis players.
okay, fantastic. Do they play for their schools or?
They will be this year, yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
And did they play at Newport? At the club?
They played a bit now and then. We live in Jamestown, so it's not far, but it doesn't always work out with timings to get to the club.
To get over
That's a
there.
beautiful part of the world, Jamestown.
It's about as close to Scotland as you can get in Rhode Island.
Any Jametowners out there, confirm or deny? That's interesting. I really hope to make it to Scotland to see the Falkland Palace court. It looks like such a trip out there. I'm sure you've been there, Mike.
Yeah, so when you're the pro in Troon, de facto you're the pro in Falkland Palace.
Understood.
Okay.
So you would go and do a week's coaching in the summer over to Falkland.
Okay.
And what's great about a facility that isn't brilliant for tennis, I have to say, but such a historic value, is that the people that play are the pioneers.
Right.
So the spirit of let's get out there and do it is really high. They're not worried about the ball or the flagstone that's sticking up the wrong way,
Right.
or whether it's raining.
Whether it's raining.
They're fully committed.
I love that.
You've got to go to the pub to pick the balls up.
Is that right?
Absolutely
and
the best.
drop them off. If it's by accident, by design, it works very well.
Now I know I'm going for sure. Pre and post drinks.
That would have been a good trivia question. We were asking trivia questions. Which court do you have to pick the balls up from the pub?
Now, Mike, I'm familiar with some of the differences in that court. Maybe you can run over a couple of them for the uninitiated.
This
So-
is game ball, by the way.
Oh, here we go.
Just
Here we go. Yeah.
check this.
Oh,
and Connor
disappointed.
picks it up.
Would have been
James had that.
4-1 would have been
Would have been a
quite
good
a
lead.
difference. Yeah. So Falkland Palace is a jeu de quaret court.
Correct.
It doesn't have a timbre, and it has something called a lay, which is a 5-foot wooden plank in the backhand corner of the service side. It also has some loons, which that look like large arrow slits, and are not as easy to get through as it looks, because the angle of the
15 left.
slit is sufficient so it hits one angle, hits the other angle, and comes back out. So unless it's a direct shot into the loon, it's going to come back out. Oh.
And my memory is that a number of those loons are up high enough,
Very high.
that obviously if
Yeah.
you miss, you've hit a terrible
shot,
ball,
yeah.
and your opponent has a good opportunity to make you eat it.
And obviously that's a very, very oldest court in Britain that is still standing. There was an older court at Hampton Court Palace, but there's been 3 courts at Hampton Court Palace.
Right.
And the one that everyone is familiar with is younger than Falcon Palace.
So I'm interested, maybe our real tennis historian.
Nice get there, nice get from Asher.
Very good. Our real tennis historian, Freddie Adam, who's in the building, can give us a little bit of this. But your understanding, Mike. So it's a jeu de quarret court. Was this a more typical court at the time that the Falkland court was built, or is this a one-off, or evidence of more of those?
I don't know. Standardization of the courts really came in with Bickley.
Yep.
And most of the American courts are really very similar. And I probably before 1500 it was available space. It was a courtyard and what you had, rather than a purpose-built building. So I don't know when that flipped to being more purpose-built.
Right.
So here's a trivia question for you then. So what's the date on the wall in Hampton Court Palace?
No idea.
Any idea of that one?
Hazard, second gallery.
Let's see if Asher can pull ahead right now.
After being a pro there, I should know that. Although
Does anybody on the chat know the date on the wall in Hampton Court Palace?
Point. Juice.
Medlow, save that.
We'll save that.
1781. How's that?
Way off.
Way off. Okay.
Base better than 2. Juice.
So there may have been a little license with that court then when they put the number on it.
I don't think it's the date it was built. Or maybe it is, I don't know.
Because that court's more
Advantage.
it's all Christopher Wren around it. So
Okay.
but it probably predates that.
Isn't it that one wall is from the Henry VIII era and the other 3 walls are from the
Right.
Charles I era?
Right.
Advantage. Server.
Hampton Court date.
Better than 2 yards.
John Murphy's on saying Hampton Court date. Well, I've always assumed it was a date. You've got me thinking now.
Lost
There are
field,
definitely
down
4
to
numbers on
3.
the wall that I assumed was a year.
Game, 3 games old.
Connor Medlow's tied it up. I'm sure Asher's a little disappointed as he was ahead 3-1.
Now there's a ghost at Hampton Court too.
Tell us more.
This is a story I've not heard.
So
15 old.
my sister came and visited me when I was at Hampton Court Palace and stayed in the Ely rooms, which was said to be the corridor for the nanny or the nursemaid.
Okay.
So she slept there one night,
15.
and she woke up feeling a presence, but it was a benevolent presence. And
Okay.
she felt warm and safe, and this person was just looking down at her, making sure she was okay.
Wow.
So the next morning, kind of, my sister's a doctor, and
A physician.
yeah, so she's not prone to, making little stories up.
She doesn't hold seances
Yeah, she
or
likes
anything.
she likes science.
She is of sound mind.
So sheepishly, she mentioned this to Leslie Ronaldson, and Leslie go, "Oh yes, that's the old nanny that walks through the hallway." So that she's heard that from people that have stayed in that corridor
Wow.
in the past. So
Interesting.
now, whether that's just the aura of the building or
It wasn't Leslie taking a midnight stroll.
just
Oh yeah, it's the nanny. I was staring at you.
yeah. Anyway, it's
2 yards.
That's very interesting. I have to say, there's no end to the stories in this game.
Well, just to finish it off then. So the date, there are 2 crowns on the wall, and it's got 1530 written under those crowns. I assume that was a date. Does anybody know? I think it's a date.
well, is 1530 just 1530?
Somebody painted the score on the wall.
Yeah. I mean, like in Newport, when they put the eagle on the wall, they thought they saw it under the wall and copied it when it burned down in
Okay.
in 1980.
Right.
But they're not entirely sure if that was the eagle that was there. So they had to use some artistic license to reproduce.
What they thought was there.
Right.
I didn't know that.
So, you know, it's hard to peel back the pages of history and work that out for sure.
I'll find out what's going on.
What point this is here? Oh, unbelievable. Fantastic rest.
Crowd loving that. That got a huge round of applause.
Bit of a poor choice from Connor though, going down the line with a loopy ball there.
Yeah.
There we go. John Murphy said 1530 in the chat as well, so there is definitely 1530 on the wall.
John Murphy, one of the better traveled tennis-playing Americans. And
40 love.
Fellow Jamestowner.
yes, Phil Jamestowner, along with Jane Lippincott. Who else is down there? Steve
Steve DeVoe,
Steve DeVoe, yeah.
Sheila Riley, Peter Cosell,
There we go.
Ellen
2
Herman.
yards.
We got quite
40
a
love.
Quite a cadre.
yeah.
Mark, you're usually telling us what's on the chat. Who's checking in?
Well, so far we've got about 35 viewers. John Murphy's been chatting away. We also had Lisa Cato say good morning, Ken.
All right. Hello, Lisa.
Ken, Mike, and Mark. Good morning, Lisa.
Chase worse than 2
And
yards.
and then my mum's been on the chat as well, which is great. Hi, Mum.
Why haven't you called me, Mark?
That's right. Why don't you call?
1540.
It's great to have you on board, Mum. Thanks for listening.
Oh,
And I'm not sure who is RT Tennis, but it says RT Tennis has said if Nicky Howell had not left for Bordeaux, I reckon Mike and Nick would have been a tough team to beat in the National League. What do you think, Mike?
I would hope so. But
40.
I fear if I had to play singles, I would be looking like Tim right now.
So this game is very hard on the body, eh?
It's hard on the body, and over the last 16 months, I haven't had any real practice.
Chase in the door.
I've been lucky that Phil Shannon joined the club from New York, and we've been going at it every week. But he's a good player, but he's in the 20s.
Okay.
Right.
Nicky obviously was a little bit lower than that.
Chase.
Phil Shannon. That's another nice guy of tennis. Never hear a bad word from him. I first ran across him when he was working in Washington at Prince's Court. Where is he now? Is he still around Newport or no?
I believe he's in the Washington area.
Oh, great
Okay.
shot, James. Sorry, Mike.
That's good.
Phil Shannon.
Advantage James. Can he convert this game? He's got to chase 1 and 2.
It's a big point for Asher here.
Yep. If he can pull ahead 5-3.
Not a great chase, so he's gonna
Receiver, chase,
probably have
1 and 2.
one chance at the dead on.
Maybe he'll do the famous Grassy, the high lob into the data.
Lost it 2 and 3, but it was a great effort.
Second juice, 40 all.
Pretty unlikely to bring it down with a bouncy court with a reverse post like that.
Right, so this is game ball, don't forget. It's coming off the tambour. Yeah, that was going to be a winner. That was a forehand rip from Conor Medlow.
4 games all.
All right, 4 all. So
Well.
we've definitely got a game on our hands.
There goes that.
Oh, we've got Paul Bolster on the line. Hey, Paul, nice to have you with us. Dave Tedeschi as well, great tennis.
Paul's joining us from beautiful Omaha, Nebraska, I believe.
Omaha, Nebraska, hey?
Yep, that's where his son, daughter-in-law, and grandchildren are.
15 love.
Gonna have you some beef out there. That's what's for dinner.
Then we've got Ben Gatenbeek, said he played at Falkland in the rain once and could do volleys only due to the puddles.
Oh God,
I guess
that must really do a number on the balls. If you play in the rain, I mean.
I think they have a set of the old Dunlop synthetic court tennis balls.
Oh, I love that. I would definitely play in the rain then.
You may not have even come across them.
No, I don't. I've never heard of those. Tell me what you know.
Well, they were a little bit like slightly lighter lacrosse balls with felt covers made by Dunlop for court tennis. They were not terribly satisfied to hit, I gotta say.
Right.
Chase, the yard work.
Did those come out around the time of the? What was was it a titanium racket for about 6 months or something, or
The one from
graphite or
Arta?
Yeah, I
Arta
think so.
racket?
Yep.
I
Did not last.
Yeah, I mean, primarily because it
30 all.
gave
Hazard,
terrible
work
tennis
the
elbow
yard.
to anyone that used it.
Ah, okay.
That was one of the factors. One player that did actually
Booyah.
who did
43,
enjoy that racket was a
chase the
chap
yard,
called
work
Adam
the last
Mickleborough. I don't know if he's still playing. He was a pro at Melbourne in that period.
I know at one point when I was in more of a collecting phase in this game, I had been in contact with someone in Australia about purchasing a blank of one of those rackets. Apparently they're still circulating around, and we had the deal almost done, and then just radio silence. I think someone said to him, we're not selling those.
Just to bring it back to the game for a second, so Conor Medlow's 5-4
Oh, look at that
up
one
here.
in gallery.
That was great. Conor Medlow taps the band out in respect for that shot.
30 love.
So he's 5-4 up.
Asher.
Asher needs to win this
Fighting
game
for the
if
match
he's going to
now.
stay in the game. He plays a
Around
tumbler
the
shot.
world.
Medlow's going to get that. And he taps it over.
Chase, better than the door. 30 love, 1 chase.
James just doing whatever he can to stay in this. Don't know if you can see on the stream, but in the last gallery, John Lumley's there. Obviously James Asher's partner. He's going to be playing doubles next. I see Tim Chisholm's there as well. In fact, we've got quite a crowd of pros all very interested in this game in the last gallery. It might be difficult to see on the stream.
I did wonder myself before we began how much all the pros would be watching each other, and I have to say the interest has been relatively high. Do you think
40-15, better than the door chase?
Do you think the pros are mostly doing recon, Mike, or you think they're just interested in the outcomes?
I think a team event definitely piques more interest.
Yeah.
For other pros to watch, which is good, you know.
Speaking of the team event, what's your sense of
chase better than the door?
of how the coaching is, or the coaching opportunity has changed changed the play?
Oh, James!
Compared to an open, say.
30, 40.
I mean, I think it's a very good feature for a team event, especially if there's because you've got such a wide range of experience.
5 game ball.
So
There we go, 5-all.
a few good words of advice to Asher
Oh.
is really could be really helpful for him.
Yep.
He's just maybe overhitting it with the excitement. Good
That's great squash again.
That was a
Very
squash
good.
get. And he thought it was going to hit the timbre. It went past timbre.
No tambour and squash, unfortunately. Only in Eaton fives. Uh-oh.
Match point. 3 match points to Connor Medlow here. Goes off band out.
Looking to end with a flourish in the winning gallery.
Well, that's not one of them.
15,
Connor Medlow
40.
points up the court.
That's chase minus the door.
12.
Second serve. I've seen bobbles normally from the second serve.
Almost out.
And that had a lot of spin
no.
on it.
Oh.
James Asher didn't read it correctly. Put it into the net. And that's Connor. Connor Medlow wins the game. So thanks for the commentary, Mike. That was
Yes, Mike. Thank you so much for joining
Glad
us.
to join you. Fun as ever.
Hello to your daughters and your family. I've been Ken Fortin, and joined by my fellow commentator Mark Beaumont. Up next we have the doubles. Should be back in about 5 minutes. Thanks for tuning in. Take care.